going.
Good
No.
good afternoon, Rotarians. Looks like the Zoom connection to Eagle, Colorado didn't work. Fortunately, as a couple of good Eagle Scouts, we're prepared. So we did this pre-recorded video so we can still get our introduction. Let me introduce our son, Chuck. Some of you may remember him as Charlie. Chuck Hewitt.
How's it going, everybody? Glad to be here, even if it's a pre-recording this time.
But it's fun. We're here to talk about Chuck's being one of the senior instructors and a certifier for the Professional Ski Instructors Association and American Association of Ski Board Instructors. Chuck, just what is the PSIA AASI that
Sure.
you so proudly wear?
Yeah. So PSIA AASI, that is it's a nonprofit. It's sort of the certifying body for the whole of the U.S. It's responsible for certifying instructors and kind of helping them to train and provide the best experience they can for all of the guests out there that want to learn how to ski, snowboard, and enjoy the mountains. You know, be them big or small in the winter.
About how many instructors are there nationwide, would you say?
Yeah, so like I said, nationwide, there's quite about between 30 and 35,000 instructors that are registered with PSIA AASI, so a pretty good size. We have 8 different divisions kind of spread across the country, and kind of work in our little pockets, but we've been working the last several years to really uh, kind of come together across the country. I've been working as part of that task force to try to make things as similar as possible. So if you were go take a lesson up in Maine or maybe in South Carolina or here in Colorado or out in California, you're going to have a very similar experience, and you'll find pretty similar qualifications for instructors across the country, you know, regardless of the geographic location they might be in.
Well, and among those, there's different levels of certification. What are the levels of certification and how does that work briefly?
Sure. So in the U.S. system here with PSIA ASI, we have 3 levels of certification. There's levels 1, 2, and 3. One is kind of that sort of beginner instructor, really geared towards teaching beginners. We have a lion's share of our instructors are in that level 1 category. Then we'll move on to level 2, again, kind of geared towards the intermediate lessons, if you will. And then finally, level 3 is the full cert instructor, which is sort of capable of, we like to say, skiing or snowboarding anywhere, anytime, any conditions. So capable of teaching any lesson that might walk in the door. You'll see a little bit of certification beyond that. We move into some parts of the country call it a level 4, some call it a trainer's accreditation. That's really sort of moving beyond just teaching guests and now teaching or training instructors at your home resort.
And a proud dad's got to brag. You're not only level 3, which you became level 3 a number of years ago.
Sure, I did. And so our organization has those levels of certification, and then of course we have our internal staff that run those exams. So I've been part of the Rocky Mountain regional team for a number of years, and so I'll actually go and I'll proctor those exams for
So
levels.
you actually certify instructors
That's
in
right.
the Rocky Mountain region.
Yeah, so I'll move kind of levels 1, 2, and 3 and train instructors and go run exams all across the Rocky Mountain region. And then obviously the last few years as well, we have a national task force. Like I mentioned, we work with Penn State, and it's a cool program. You can actually get a degree in ski and snowboard instruction now from Penn State. So I was part of that program and that task force that started back in 2016. And then the last 3 years, I've been part of what's called the national team. And so the national team is about 30 instructors out of that 33,000 that kind of that top level, and will then travel across the country to train the trainers, which is a really cool thing for me. Sort of work on national projects and videos and all this kind of thing. And then the 30 of us, there's 9 snowboarders, I think 18 alpiners. We have some cross country, some telemark, and some adaptive instructors all on that team.
And you got an international trip out
Yeah,
of
we
that.
did, and that was really cool. So in 2023, I got to travel to Finland,
Yeah.
and up in really far north, up north of the Arctic Circle, which was really cool. It was up in a place called Levy. Um, but basically, we had all these organizations, so much like PSIA AASI. Every country that has snow has a similar organization, and we meet up once every 4 years and kind of compare notes. And so I got to go in 23 and do that, and man, that was a really cool experience and really fun to sort of get a more worldly perspective on all things
Well,
snowsports.
worldly perspective, you've gotten a couple trips to China out of this gig.
Yeah. Also kind of traveled the other direction, and I've gone over to China a couple times. Interestingly enough, teaching in indoor snow
Indoor
domes.
skiing.
Yeah, it's pretty
Wow.
wild. They're
Wow.
really massive. Um, it's like snowboarding in a giant refrigerator. There's no wind. There's real snow. It feels a little bit different than what you might find outside, but it's a pretty cool experience, and yeah, I've gotten to train instructors over there to teach snowboarding in the sort of growing snow sports industry in China.
So that's great. Now I understand what the instructors are. Let's, because I enjoyed the story, let's go back in the time machine. Your first run on a, uh, wasn't a snowboard.
Yeah.
Your, just tell us your first run. I know exactly where and when it was.
Uh-huh.
What's your first run?
Well, there's not a lot of big mountains in Michigan, as I'm sure you're all well aware. And this guy here had a snurfer hanging out in the garage, which, if you don't know what that is, it's sort of the original snowboard. Some might argue that, but sort of made by Sherman Poppin right there in
Yeah.
Michigan. And it's basically like, think of it as a fat water ski. Had a little rope on the nose, no bindings. You just kind of stood on it and hoped for the best.
And
So
the 60th anniversary of the Snurfer this year.
is that right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So yes, the snurfer was my first start, and then the the first there was not a lot of hills in our backyard, so I kind of slid around on a little bit, and then obviously the slide on the swing set in our backyard was about the steepest thing I could find. So I rode the snurfer down the slide in the backyard, and
And look where we got to.
look what you got. That did get a little boring, so I did build a jump at the bottom of the
Yeah.
slide because why would you not? Sure,
And
there
and
you
from
go.
there we've got some members, retired members of Portage Public Schools, and maybe the superintendent's listening in. West Middle School gave you a real start in skiing and
Yeah,
snowboarding.
they did. They did. There's cool programs put on by the schools. The ski club. It was once a week. I think it was probably a Friday. Could have been a Thursday. But you'd hang out after school. You'd wait till the buses had dropped all the kids off at their houses. Then they'd come back. You'd jump on the bus, and off to Bittersweet we would go. And it was great. They had a great program. We'd
Yeah.
unload from the bus, file through the rental shop, and then get all of our equipment and out onto the slopes of
So
Bittersweet.
thank you. So we went from Portage Public Schools and then Marquette, Michigan, and Northern Michigan University. What'd you do up there?
Yeah, so traveled north, uh, in pursuit of the small mountains you can find in Michigan. But it's pretty cool there in the Upper Peninsula. So I went up to Northern Michigan University, studied outdoor recreation management, and found myself working at Marquette Mountain, which is a little ski hill. At the time, it was the biggest in Michigan, right? Boasting over 600 feet of vertical. Since then, Mount Bohemia has opened up, I think, and topped that just a little bit. But it was great. So it was really cool to find a pass, and then I met the owner of the ski area up there before too long, and he said, well, if I worked for him in the ski school, then I get a free pass, and while college student wouldn't pass that up.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And then one snowy January morning, you and your roommate Justin packed up everything you owned and headed for Colorado. So
We did,
you
yeah,
landed in Colorado. How odd that turn?
yeah. So that was in pursuit of the mountains. Sort of paralleled in the summertime. Doing some guiding and hiking and climbing and mountain biking and all this kind of thing, but fit in really well with the snowboard and ski side of things. So I actually moved in the winter of uh, 2001, 2002. I worked the Christmas rush at Marquette Mountain, and then, as my dad said, jumped in the car with a buddy of mine, and we headed west. And I jumped out in Boulder, Colorado, and spent the remaining half of that winter actually working for Ski Patrol on a snowboard at Eldora Mountain Resort, which is cool, and I had done Ski Patrol back at Marquette Mountain as well, actually at the same time as ski school, which is maybe another day, another story. But yeah, I quickly learned that while ski patrol was really cool and pretty rewarding, uh, everybody you met wasn't necessarily having a good day. So ski school was a little more appealing to me because you got a chance to kind of put smiles on people's faces. Not saying that you didn't in ski patrol; they were always appreciative after the fact, but packaging them up and taking them down the mountain was was not as much fun as getting somebody excited about making their first turns on the mountain.
And lo and behold, you found yourself here at Beaver Creek. We're in the Vail Valley.
Mhm.
Here you found yourself at Beaver Creek.
Excuse me.
On the ski, being an instructor at Beaver Creek, and we have to do that part of the story. And she's sitting here with insight. Not only did you find your passion in a career, but you found the love of your life, being a snowboard instructor at Beaver Creek.
Yeah, funny how things works out like that. But yeah, true story. Um, so my wife Natalie was actually uh, uh, good friends with my boss's wife at the time. I didn't know this. It was a little bit of a setup, but it's worked out pretty well. Uh, so they kind of snuck it in there, and Natalie joined me in a lesson. Like it was a class lesson, um, and very quickly maybe was focusing my attention towards her just a little bit
We
more than the other
we may
students.
have a photo popping up because I gave Matt Kopp a photo of the two of you,
Oh, perfect.
one of
Okay.
those first seasons.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But yeah, so she also really enjoys the mountain and did a bunch of skiing and taught her to snowboard, and then she taught snowboarding with me for a number of years at Beaver Creek,
And
which was
that's
a whole
worked
lot
out
of fun.
well. And now we have a grandson and a granddaughter here. And I believe you had them on a snowboard before they could walk. And there may be another picture coming up.
We did. It was pretty funny. Yeah, both my daughter and my son jumped on a snowboard uh, basically as soon as they could stand up. It was more for the photos and the fun, just to let them, say that they snowboarded when they were before they could walk. But it's a true story.
Well, and I know President Randy's probably getting nervous about how much time we've spent, but we do want to say, have there been any really unique experiences, unique people that you've taught snowboarding? What couple things stand out as being an instructor at Vail and Beaver Creek?
Sure. You've definitely, taught some high profile folks over the years, and most of them are coming here to kind of escape the limelight, you might say. But I'm sure you wouldn't mind if I tell the story. I did teach a few years back Andre Agassi, um, super athlete. Actually, his wife Steffi Graf came too, and she was a better athlete. You can tell me so
Oh,
that. No, but I had a great moment there, and so the first time I met him, he rolled up to the lesson yard, and he had his helmet on, and his goggles were a little bit crooked, and he had kind of one pant that was kind of tucked into his boot, funny. And I said, "Oh, hi, how's it going? Nice to meet you, Andre. I'm Chuck. Let me just give me a second." And I tucked and I fixed his pants, and I fixed his goggles and kind of straightened his helmet out. And I said, "No, hold your snowboard like this." And then I said, "Image is everything." And then we took
fantastic.
off, right?
Yeah.
Which, of course, for those of you who remember from this, I can't remember what the camera company was, but it was pretty good, and we hit it off pretty well, and got to make some terms with him for a
That
few years.
wasn't Morgan Freeman one?
Morgan Freeman was out there. He's been around for sure.
And more than once you've had Morgan, haven't you?
Um, yeah, but I don't know. It might have been maybe once or
Yeah.
twice, but again, it's kind of they usually have groups of people, and sometimes they're there just by themselves, and more often they're out there, and they've got their family or their kids or other folks with them, so they're always kind of helping escort them around and having a good time.
Outstanding. So we're going to wrap this up. We still hope we can do questions and answers because if we weren't able to get a live video, at least hopefully I've got Chuck on the phone as we're concluding this, so we
Right.
can do some live questions and answers. But we appreciate taking time. One thing we're going to kind of close out. If you want to see part of how this story works, one that we always look at and Chuck's talked about, you can go on whatever streaming service you use, find an old movie called Aspen Extreme. Aspen Extreme's Chuck's laughing is pretty funny. Many of you may be from the Detroit area, may know of Mount Brighton. There's no mountain in Brighton. Mount Brighton is just a pile of dirt created by digging out all the freeways in Detroit. They plopped a ski area on top of it. Aspen Extreme, and spoiler alert, it's not a good ending to the movie, but Aspen Extreme is the story of a lift operator and instructor that go from Mount Brighton to Aspen, and it's a pretty interesting story. And another spoiler alert, watch the movie, you can understand why for a long time Chuck wanted to live in a caboose. and, and it didn't work out.
There's not a lot of cabooses.
So Chuck, thanks for doing this.
Awesome.
We got to holler. Hey, Dylan, we got to holler for Dylan to shut the video off. Dylan, where are you?
Our producer,
Our producer went up to his room. He's our IT. Thank